The face is etched into the American soul. It stares from the dollar bill. It is carved into mountainsides. George Washington, the general, the president, the father of his country. We see a man of principle, a leader of legendary stoicism, a symbol of liberty. But this is only one side of the portrait. Behind the myth lies a hidden history, a story not of politics or war, but of money, power, and immense, staggering wealth. This is the story of an empire few people know, an economic machine built with breathtaking ambition, and founded on a truth so uncomfortable it has been polished out of the popular narrative. We think we know George Washington, but we don't know the full story. We are about to expose the hidden truth about his financial empire and the uncomfortable realities that built it. His journey did not begin in opulence. Young George Washington was not born into the highest tier of Virginia's planter elite. His family was respectable, but not fabulously wealthy. His father's early death limited his prospects. He would not receive a fine European education like his peers. Instead, he learned a practical trade: surveying. At 16, he ventured into the wild frontier of the Shenandoah Valley. He carried a compass and a Gunter's chain. He measured the vast, untamed wilderness, but he was doing more than just drawing lines on a map. He was learning a fundamental lesson. Land was the ultimate source of wealth, and he developed an insatiable appetite for it. His surveying work gave him an inside track. He saw the best land before anyone else. He began to acquire parcels, small at first. But his ambition was enormous. The French and Indian War gave him his next opportunity. He served the British Crown. He gained military experience and a reputation for bravery. But he also gained something more tangible: land grants. Thousands of acres were awarded for his service. His portfolio was growing. He was a man on the rise. But the single greatest leap in his financial journey was not on a battlefield. It was at the altar. In 1759, Washington married a wealthy young widow. Her name was Martha Dandridge Custis. This union was the most important business merger of his life. Martha brought with her a staggering inheritance: an immense estate of over 17,000 acres of prime Virginia land. But the land was not the most valuable asset. The Custis estate included more than 300 enslaved human beings. Overnight, George Washington became one of the wealthiest men in Virginia. He was now the master of Mount Vernon. And he had the capital, both in land and in human lives, to build an empire. The stoic general of myth was, first and foremost, a shrewd and calculating businessman. His life's work was about to begin. Mount Vernon was not simply a plantation. It was a sprawling, diversified, and ruthlessly efficient economic engine. Washington the general was also Washington the CEO. He managed his holdings with meticulous, obsessive detail. His early focus was on tobacco. It was Virginia's cash crop. But Washington saw the flaws in the system. Tobacco exhausted the soil. Its price, set by merchants in London, was volatile. He felt trapped, controlled by a distant market. So he made a radical business decision. He would pivot. He moved away from tobacco and towards wheat. This was a stroke of genius. Wheat was in high demand in the colonies and the West Indies. It was less punishing on the soil, and he could control the final product. But he didn't just sell raw grain. Washington built a state-of-the-art merchant mill on his property. It was an industrial marvel for its time. Its advanced gears and stones, powered by Dog Run Creek, ground his wheat into superfine flour. He packed this flour in barrels, stamped with his own brand, G. Washington. His brand became a mark of supreme quality. Buyers paid a premium for it. His profits soared. But he diversified even further. He established a commercial fishing operation on the Potomac River. His teams hauled in millions of shad and herring each spring. The fish were salted, packed in barrels, and sold. Much of it was used as cheap protein to feed the very people who powered his empire: the enslaved workforce. Then came the distillery. In the 1790s, Washington built one of the largest whiskey distilleries in America. It was a massive operation. 5 copper stills bubbled day and night. They were managed by enslaved distillers, men who had learned the complex craft. In its final year of operation, the distillery produced nearly 11,000 gallons of whiskey and brandy. It was an enormous source of cash. Mount Vernon was a hub of industry. A blacksmith shop, a brick kiln, weavers and spinners, carpenters and coopers, all working to make the estate self-sufficient and profitable. But we must ask the question that history often avoids. Who powered this machine? The answer is the foundation of Washington's wealth, the uncomfortable truth. It was all built on the backs of enslaved men, women, and children. Washington was not a distant, benevolent master. His personal diaries and ledgers reveal a different man, a demanding micromanager. He tracked every bushel of wheat, every nail forged, and every hour of labor performed by his human property. He experimented with crop rotations to maximize yields. He designed new plows for greater efficiency. But this efficiency came at a human cost. The enslaved community worked from sunup to sundown, 6 days a week. Washington's records show him complaining about days lost to sickness. He pursued those who escaped with relentless determination. He placed newspaper ads. He hired agents. He fought to reclaim his, quote, property. The story of Ona Judge, Martha's personal attendant who escaped to New Hampshire, is telling. Washington used his presidential power in a failed attempt to recapture her. This was the paradox. The man fighting for the liberty of a nation denied it to the people who generated his own fortune. His wealth and the cause of American freedom were fundamentally intertwined with the brutal reality of human bondage. As the Revolutionary War raged, the paradox deepened. General Washington led an army fighting under a banner of freedom. He spoke the language of liberty and natural rights. Yet, he remained one of the largest slaveholders in the country. This contradiction was not lost on him, or on his enemies. The British offered freedom to any enslaved person who fled a patriot master and joined their side. Many did, including some from Mount Vernon. Washington called them traitors. After the war, as president, he wrestled with the issue. He expressed private anxieties about slavery. He called it a great evil. He worried it would tear the new nation apart, but his public actions were cautious, timid. He was trapped. His entire economic existence, his status, his wealth, was built on the system he claimed to despise. To dismantle it would be to dismantle his own life. He was a pragmatist, a businessman, and a man of his time and class. He chose to protect his interests. He signed the Fugitive Slave Act of 1793. This law federally authorized the capture and return of escaped slaves. It strengthened the institution he privately condemned. His final act on the matter was in his will. It was a document that shocked many. Washington ordered that the 123 enslaved people he personally owned be freed. But there was a critical, cruel catch. They would only be granted their freedom upon the death of his wife, Martha. He put Martha in a terrible position. She was now living surrounded by people who would only be free when she died. For her own safety, she chose to sign the manumission papers early. But the will had another layer of complexity. The majority of the enslaved people at Mount Vernon, the, quote, dour slaves, were part of the Custis estate. Washington had no legal right to free them. Upon Martha's death, they were not freed. They were divided up, passed on as property to her grandchildren. Families were torn apart forever. The story of George Washington's wealth is the story of America itself. It is a tale of ambition, innovation, and strategic genius. But it is also a story of exploitation and profound contradiction. The face on the dollar bill is not just a symbol of freedom, it is a symbol of a complex and challenging past. A past built on a financial empire, an empire that was, in turn, built on an uncomfortable and undeniable truth.